You know, when you look at a scoreboard, there is there's this expectation of absolute truth, right? Like looking at a bank statement or something.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's supposed to be the ultimate summary.
Right. It's just the math of the event completely boiled down into 2 digits. You see a 3-1 and you know there was dominance.
Or, you see a 4-3 and you just know it was absolute unbridled chaos on the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. It's clean, it's binary, and it's comforting because, well, we like complex things to be easily categorized.
We definitely do.
But then you step into the world of elite, high-stakes international football, specifically the FIFA World Cup 2026, and suddenly that scoreboard becomes a massive liar.
A huge liar, especially when you're talking about a 0-0 draw.
Right, because you look at the final score of this Colombia versus Portugal clash, and you see a 0 on one side and a 0 on the other.
The infamous 0-0. For a lot of casual observers, that scoreline is basically the definition of a non-event.
Yeah, they think nothing happened.
Exactly. The assumption is that it was just a stalemate of inaction or just 90 minutes of two teams passing the ball sideways.
But look, we have been poring over a massive stack of post-match tactical analyses, heat maps, touchline interviews, and all this raw performance data.
And the sheer volume of data is just staggering.
It really is. And let me tell you, to you listening right now, do not let that scoreline fool you for a single second. Today's deep dive is taking us straight into the heart of a truly pulsating night in Miami.
The tension in that stadium was just palpable, even through the screen.
Oh, absolutely. Our mission today is to unpack a match that was packed with so much tactical warfare, biomechanical brilliance, and just raw psychological tension that calling it a 0-0 tie feels, frankly, like an insult to the sport itself.
It really does. It was a masterclass in so many ways.
Okay, let's unpack this. How on earth can a game where the net technically never bulges still be described by all the data and the analysts as absolutely pulsating?
Well, what's fascinating here is that a 0-0 draw between two powerhouse teams, like Colombia and Portugal, it rarely means a lack of attacking intent.
Right, it's not just them sitting back.
Not at all. Instead, it almost always reveals this intense, incredibly high-stakes tactical chess match. It's like two master code breakers trying to hack into each other's highly secure mainframes.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and the fact that neither got in doesn't mean they weren't frantically trying to exploit vulnerabilities the entire time. It just means the security systems, the defensive structures, and the goalkeepers were operating at an extraterrestrial level.
Wow. And to really understand how those systems held up, we have to look at how fiercely both of these teams tried to smash the deadlock right from the very first second.
They absolutely came out swinging.
They really did. The referee for this match, Alireza Fakani from Australia, blows the starting whistle, and the atmosphere in Miami just ignites. But it isn't just noise, you know. It translates immediately into physical action on the pitch.
You can feel the sheer weight of a World Cup encounter in that first whistle. I mean, it's the release of days, if not weeks, of psychological buildup.
Right, all the prep work just colliding at once.
Exactly. All the scouting reports, the video analysis, the tactical briefings, it all collides the moment the ball rolls.
And Colombia did not waste a millisecond. When you look at the tactical data, you see this immediate, suffocating early pressure.
The intensity was off the charts right out of the gate.
The very first touch of significance goes to Colombia's number 7, Luis Diaz. He's operating high up on the left flank, right?
Yes, exactly.
He receives the ball, instantly turns away from Portugal's Bruno Fernandes, tees it up, and fires off a shot that forces a brilliant save just to keep the game at 0-0 before anyone has even broken a sweat.
We really need to break down the mechanics of that specific play, because to execute a turn like that against a player of Bruno Fernandes' caliber requires this biomechanical perfection that's hard to overstate.
Right, because it's not a static play.
No, not at all. Diaz is receiving a moving object. He has to process the speed of the ball, map the exact spatial coordinates of Fernandes closing in from behind, calculate the friction of the grass.
All in a fraction of a second.
Exactly, all in a fraction of a second. By spinning away on his first touch, he fundamentally disrupts Portugal's defensive geometry before their midfield line has even had a chance to set up its shape.
It reminds me of, like, a boxing match where a fighter walks out of their corner in opening second of round 1 and just throws a wild, incredibly heavy haymaker.
Yeah, just swinging for the fences.
Right. They aren't even necessarily expecting a knockout. They just want to put the other guy on notice. They want to establish dominance early.
Yeah.
But I have to push back on the tactical wisdom of that.
Okay, what do you mean?
Does an aggressive, immediate start like Diaz's actually dictate the tone for the whole match, or are you just slapping a sleeping bear? Doesn't a high-octane start like that just serve to wake the elite opposition up and make them hyper-alert?
Well, it's the eternal risk-reward calculation of the high press, right? And the data from this match shows it absolutely does both.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Very much so. On one hand, Colombia sent a physical and psychological message. By forcing a brilliant save that early, you inject a massive surge of adrenaline into your own squad. You push the opponent's defensive line deeper.
But on the other hand,
But, to your point, you also ring the alarm bell for a team full of Champions League winners. Portugal realized instantly that they could not ease into this match. They couldn't spend the first 10 minutes just knocking the ball around the back line to get a feel for the condition.
because the pressing triggers were just too aggressive.
Precisely.
And Colombia really sustained that siege too. They didn't just back off into a defensive shell after that first shot. The midfield battle, specifically in the central third of the pitch, was ferocious.
It was a total war of attrition in there.
The reports highlight Jefferson Lerma, Colombia's defensive midfielder, bypassing the initial Portuguese press to find James Rodriguez with a brilliantly disguised pass.
A lovely little pass, really.
Yeah. And then you have John Arias operating in those half spaces between the midfield and the defense, injecting what the tactical analysts called a critical element of doubt into the Portuguese backline.
That phrase, an element of doubt, is so crucial in understanding high-level football. Defensive structure is entirely reliant on certainty and collective timing.
Because everyone has to move together, right?
Exactly. A defensive four-man line needs to know exactly when to step up in unison to catch an attacker offside and exactly when to drop back to protect the penalty area. What John Arias was doing was creating cognitive overload.
So practically speaking, what does that look like on the field?
It looks like hesitation. It's a Portuguese center back shifting his weight to his back foot for a half second because he isn't sure if he should track Arias or pass him off to a midfielder.
Wow, just a half second.
Yep. In a World Cup, that half second of doubt, just planting a foot instead of stepping forward, creates a 2-yard passing lane. And that is all an elite playmaker like James Rodriguez needs to thread a ball through.
Oh, it's
Arias wasn't necessarily trying to get the ball himself. He was manipulating the space around him to break Portugal's structural certainty.
But Portugal is a powerhouse. They didn't just absorb this spatial manipulation, they exploited the physical realities of it. Because if Colombia is pushing their midfielders that high up the pitch, they're vacating the grass behind them.
Naturally, you can't be everywhere at once.
Right. And the counter pressure from Portugal was immense. We see Cristiano Ronaldo dropping slightly deeper to apply real physical pressure on the Colombian buildup, dragging defenders with him.
Which creates a massive pocket of space.
Exactly. It creates a pocket for João Félix, who executes a stunning sequence that ends with a shot flying just millimeters over the crossbar.
And that João Félix play perfectly illustrates the pendulum of momentum in a tactical setup. When a team like Colombia commits so many resources forward, they naturally leave vast tracts of empty space in transition.
So Portugal used Ronaldo as a sort of decoy.
Basically, yeah. Utilizing the gravity of Ronaldo to pull the center backs out of position, Portugal unleashed the explosive speed of Felix into that exact space.
And that shot going just over the bar.
Structurally, it is the razor-thin margin between a Colombian tactical masterclass and a devastating 1-0 deficit.
So if both teams are successfully executing these massive tactical strikes, Diaz breaking the geometry, Felix exploiting the transition space, we have to look at why those strikes didn't alter the scoreboard.
This is the crucial part.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We have to talk about the tactical responses of the defensive units, and specifically, the goalkeepers. Because Vargas and Diogo Costa weren't just making saves.
No, they're actively neutralizing the physics of the game.
They were like two opposing brick walls that just refused to crack under the pressure. How does a defense maintain its composure when the ball is constantly pinballing like that?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, goalkeeping at this elite level isn't merely the reactionary physical act of blocking shots, it is deeply psychological.
Psychological. How so?
It acts as a team's ultimate kinetic dampener. When a striker perfectly executes a tactical sequence, strikes the ball flawlessly, and the goalkeeper somehow recalculates the angles in real time to get a hand on it, it doesn't just stop a goal.
It breaks their spirit a little bit.
Exactly. It drains the emotional energy of the attacking team. It builds an aura of invincibility that slowly forces the opposition to try lower percentage shots.
And we saw that aura being built on both ends, completely shutting down the expected goals metric. First, Vargas makes a massive point-blank save to deny Bruno Fernandes.
A player who statistically converts those chances in his sleep.
Right. And almost immediately in transition, Diogo Costa makes a sprawling, biomechanically absurd save against Colombia's Santiago Arias. But picture the reality for the outfield players. The ball is transitioning from box to box at blistering speed.
It's absolute chaos.
When the game state becomes this chaotic, how does a defensive unit even maintain its shape? Because surely you can't communicate complex spatial adjustments over the roar of a Miami crowd.
You can't. You really can't hear anything. It requires immense discipline, spatial awareness, and a profound level of nonverbal communication.
Just trusting your teammates.
Trust and drilled heuristics. When the midfield structure breaks down, defenders have to make instantaneous decisions about whether to engage the ball carrier or protect the most dangerous real estate, the center of the penalty box.
Take the specific adjustments Portugal made against Luis Diaz on the flank.
Right. The scouting reports noted something fascinating here. After that early scare, the Portuguese defensive unit essentially put a blindfold on Diaz.
Wow, a blindfold.
Metaphorically, yes. They adjusted their body angles so that he couldn't even see a viable path to the goal.
So they took away his visual access entirely.
Precisely. An elite striker doesn't just look at the ball. They rely on peripheral visual cues, the position of the far post, the micro movements of the goalkeeper, the distance between a defender's legs.
So by structuring their double teams to physically block those sight lines,
Portugal neutralized the threat organically. If the brain can't map the destination, the body won't take the shot. It's defending with shadows and angles.
but inevitably those angles fail, right? An attacker slips through, a cross comes in, and it comes down to pure, desperate athleticism.
Yes, the system eventually breaks down.
There is a moment highlighted in the reports where Vegas, anchoring the back line, has to make a towering, massive header to clear an incredibly dangerous ball. The physical relief of a clearance like that is palpable.
It really is.
It's like hitting a hard reset button on a computer that is completely locking up and about to crash.
That is the perfect analogy. The defensive system is overloaded, the cognitive processing of the players is flashing red, and that singular, brutal header from Vegas just clears the cache.
It buys them time.
Exactly. It buys the team the critical 4 or 5 seconds they need to push the line up the field, reorganize, and take one deep breath before the next wave hits.
But the waves didn't stop. And because both Vargas and Costa were operating as these impenetrable walls, the pressure cooker of this match was mathematically guaranteed to boil over.
It was inevitable.
The final moments in Miami are where the tactical discipline begins to violently clash with human physiology. I mean, we are talking about the late stages of a World Cup match. The humidity is crushing.
Miami Heat is no joke.
No, it's not. The lactic acid in their legs must feel like wet concrete.
And exhaustion in football doesn't just affect muscle twitch response, it severely degrades cognitive function. The gaps between the midfield line and the defensive line start to widen.
Because they physically cannot sprint back to compress them anymore.
Right. Peripheral vision literally narrows under extreme physical distress. And that is exactly when the true visionaries of the game start to find pockets that simply didn't exist earlier.
Which brings us to the breakdown of those final minutes. James Rodriguez, who has been battered all game, is suddenly finding these pockets. He's scanning the pitch, processing the widened gaps in Portugal's block.
And on the other side, Portugal is manipulating the width of the pitch to stretch those exhausted Colombian legs even further.
Right. The ball gets pushed out to the right flank to Delo. And as he whips it through the heavy air, you have Rafael making a blindside run from the opposite wing, just busting a lung to reach the far post.
The geometry of a cross late in a game is an absolute nightmare to defend.
I can imagine.
The ball is curving, altering its trajectory. The exhausted center backs have to visually track the ball while simultaneously tracking the movement of players coming in from behind their field of vision.
So it's a split focus issue.
Exactly. It requires a split focus that is incredibly taxing when your brain is screaming for oxygen. You are fighting the ball, the opponent, and your own nervous system.
But the sequence that truly defines this match, the moment the tactical dam finally bursts, comes from Colombia. Juan Fernando Quintero spots a fracture in Portugal's shape and threads a highly dangerous ball into the box.
It was a brilliant pass.
And Diogo Costa continuing his absolute masterclass, throws himself into the fray to make an unbelievable block. Now, I want to challenge something here.
Sure, go ahead.
Observers often call these late-game blocks pure instinct.
Yeah.
But is it really just blind instinct overriding self-preservation? Don't elite keepers spend thousands of hours calculating the exact angles of these desperation dives?
You are absolutely right to challenge that. Calling it pure instinct really diminishes the science behind it.
So it's more calculated.
Yes, it is actually highly refined muscle memory fusing with cognitive override. Costa isn't just throwing his body wildly, his brain recognizes the spatial pattern of the breakdown instantly.
Wow.
He knows exactly how much surface area he needs to present and the precise microsecond he needs to close the distance. It looks like desperation to us, but to him, it's the execution of a deeply ingrained algorithm.
But even an algorithm can be overwhelmed by sheer persistence. Colombia refuses to let the play die. The ball stays alive, Quintero recalibrates, and he sends it sweeping to the far post again.
And the defense is finally out of position.
The cache cannot be cleared. This time, a goal is scored. The ball is in the back of the net. The stadium in Miami absolutely erupts. The deadlock is broken in the dying moments.
The pure euphoria of a late goal on that stage, it's unmatched. It's the sudden, explosive release of 90 minutes of agonizing physical and psychological tension.
The players believe they've just secured their legacy.
Exactly. They think it's over.
But the climax is a lie. The flag goes up. The play goes to a VAR check. So what does this all mean for the players on the pitch?
It's just excruciating.
It's like the ultimate plot twist in a thriller movie, you
Yeah.
know? Where you think you have a resolution, only for it to be snatched away. The ruling comes down, the goal is ruled out, erased from the history books.
It's completely gone.
How does a team physically and mentally recover from that specific type of trauma? To experience the ultimate emotional peak, only to have it surgically removed by a video screen while your muscles are failing.
This raises an important question about the psychological demands of the modern game. Before the era of prolonged video checks, if the ball went in, the emotional release was permanent.
Right, you just celebrated and that was it.
But now, players are forced to live in this excruciating purgatory between the physical act of scoring and the bureaucratic confirmation of it. For Colombia, that emotional whiplash is devastating.
I can't even imagine.
You have expended every last drop of adrenaline in the celebration, only to be told you have to jog back to the center circle and keep fighting in a 0-0 game. It drains the central nervous system even faster than lactic acid drains the legs.
And yet they had to snap back into the tactical framework and finish it out. The final whistle finally blows. It finishes exactly as it started on the scoreboard, at 0-0. But as we've explored today, what a profound, beautiful lie that 0-0 is.
Indeed. It wasn't a lack of action. It was a masterclass in spatial manipulation, defensive geometry, and raw physiological endurance.
Let's summarize the sheer weight of what went down for our listener. We saw relentless, biomechanically brilliant early pressure from Luis Diaz, instantly met by the spatial exploitation of João Félix and Ronaldo.
We watched two goalkeepers, Vargas and Diogo Costa, operate as supreme kinetic dampeners.
Right, using positioning and psychology to neutralize world-class attackers. We saw defensive units perfectly execute shadow marking, literally blinding attackers to their angles.
And relying on players like Vegas to clear the cache when the system completely overloaded.
And of course, we saw the ultimate heartbreak. Quintero orchestrating the perfect final equation only for the goal to be ruled out, leaving both teams completely spent.
It was a true war of attrition where the defensive structures simply refused to fundamentally break.
Which brings me to a final provocative thought for you to mull over as we wrap up this deep dive. Think about the man with the whistle. Australian referee Alireza Fakani.
Ah, yes, the referee.
In a game filled with massive global stars, endless tactical fouls designed to disrupt momentum, high-speed collisions, and a wildly emotional disallowed goal. How much does the referee's silent control dictate the flow of a pulsating scoreless draw?
It's a great question. He is the real-time conductor of this chaotic orchestra.
Exactly. Managing egos, pacing the set pieces, and ensuring the pressure cooker doesn't actually explode into violence. It's something to really consider the next time you watch a match that ends 0-0.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes the scoreboard is objective. But sometimes, like tonight in Miami, that clean, comforting 0 hides an entire universe of beautiful, calculated, violent chaos.